Hello, I'm Laura Knights, CEO of Knights Consulting, creator of BlackWomanLeading.com, and the host of Black Woman Leading, the podcast. This podcast amplifies the needs and experiences of Black women leaders in the workplace with a holistic focus on three core areas: leadership development, mental wellness, and relationship management. Our ultimate aim is to help Black women learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Before we jump into this next podcast episode, I wanted to invite you to the 2025 Black Woman Leading Live Conference and Retreat, taking place May 27th through the 30th, 2025 in Virginia Beach. Now, if you haven't heard, Black Woman Leading Live is the premier leadership development conference to help Black women professionals learn, heal, and grow in their leadership capacity. Imagine a community of Black women leaders from across the country supporting you as you clarify your career growth strategy, work on refining your leadership skills, and make a plan to tend to your mental health and self-care. Yes, we do all of that at this transformational, professional, and personal development experience designed by Black women for Black women. Now, activities will include workshops, panels, wellness breaks, laser coaching, networking, action planning, and some fun community events. And at the 2025 event, in addition to our overall focus on your career development and holistic wellness, we'll dive a little bit deeper into the critical leadership competency of strategic communication. Every effective leader has gained some mastery of strategic communication, and we want to help you to do the same. So yes, we're going to get into all of this. And sis, you need to be there. Get all the details and save your seat at www.bwlretreat.com. All right, welcome everyone. Today, we are talking about dreaming on purpose with our special guest, Ariane Hunter. Ariane, welcome to the Black Woman Leading podcast. We're so happy to have you.
Thank you so much, Laura. It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited.
Awesome. So you all know we only invite people here who have receipts about what they are talking about. So I'm going to share a little bit of Ariane's bio, and then we'll jump into the episode. So Ariane Hunter is a speaker, author, and career equity expert who champions work culture and career empowerment solutions for Black millennial professional women. With over 20 years of experience in career and leadership strategy, she is dedicated to helping marginalized groups thrive and cultivate healthy work relationships. As a mental health advocate for Black women, Ariane underscores the importance of firm boundaries and restful practices for a flourishing professional life. I feel like I need to say that one line again. Ariane's training encompasses social justice, technology, intersectionality, and futurist insights, aiming to foster sustainable and impactful change. Her professional background includes working with leading marketing and branding agencies in New York City, supporting high-profile clients to achieve industry leadership, and she holds an MBA and is a certified career coach. Now, her debut book, which we're going to talk about today, Dreaming on Purpose, a manifesto for Black women on taking the leap, building your dreams, and being your own boss, will be released by Indigo River Publishers on August 20th, 2024. This business leadership book inspires and guides Black women on a care-centered approach to thriving in business, life, and beyond. And so you all can already see why I invited her. She is kindred to us over here at Black Woman Leading. But really our introduction, another one of our Black Woman Leading supporters and friends, Kara Stevens, she was on the podcast last season. She posted about Ariane's new book, and the title jumped off the page at me. And if you all have been listening to the podcast for a while, you know that we talk about Black women creating space for themselves to dream and vision being a revolutionary activity. So when I saw that and I'm like, wait a minute, what is this? What is she talking about over here? I immediately extended her an invitation for an intro call, and we had that chat, and it was all good vibes. And here we are today. So we're definitely going to get into this book, to Ariane's work that she is doing out into the world. But before we start talking about the book, I always like to start our podcast with this question because all of our guests are Black women leading themselves. So I'd like to ask you, what does the phrase Black women leading mean to you? And can you just share a little bit about your journey and how you came to this current work?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Laura, first I want to just thank you again for having me on the podcast and this opportunity to speak to you and to your audience. It's a real pleasure and an honor to have these conversations. So immediately when I learned about Black women leading, it just really sent a chill up my spine. We're really at a moment in time where we're stepping into our power. We're pushing back on narratives that have never served us. We are, taking up and reclaiming our space, right? And that's
Yeah.
exactly what Black women leading means to me. It is that woman who is fiercely in charge of her destiny and her autonomy and leadership. She knows herself, she knows her boundaries, right? And she's not afraid to center them. She knows that she's not perfect. She knows that she doesn't have to prove herself, and her value and her worth does not rest in a title or her resume or even her accomplishments. She knows that just simply existing and waking up every day is enough for her. And she leads
Yeah.
from that place with a complete open heart and connected to spirit and her ancestral wisdom. So that's a lot, right?
I just got a little chill though when you said it. I got a little
It's a
tingle.
beautiful place to be, and I really want to disclaim that this is, not something that you will overnight, just wake up and become. This is a lifetime of work that we are
Yeah.
doing for ourselves and for our community. It's a commitment to ourselves that we show up to every single day. It is a practice. And so
Yeah.
this is, completely the opposite of what we hear oftentimes when we walk out our front door and we're in the world and there's so many demands and pressure that's placed upon you. Just the judgment, the criticism, right? We see what's
Yeah.
happening right now politically as the first Black woman president, right? Steps in to take, the place in
Wow.
one of the most powerful jobs in the world, right? And you see immediately the backlash that happens from that, right? And so imagine that happening, not imagine, we live it every single day.
Yeah,
We
every day.
experience
Yeah.
that, in our own individual world. So, walking into or stepping into that authenticity is that practice, and it's a commitment that you show up for yourself every single day.
Yeah, and I love how you talk about it as, it is kind of knowing that, but I love the words of Dr. Tricia Hershey from Net Ministry of a slow unraveling,
Mm,
because some of it is unlearning, having to unlearn not only systemic or societal lessons, but from our own family, because they did the best they could and had a narrative that they were operating in that we don't have to necessarily choose as our own narrative now. So
absolutely.
if you're listening and you're like, well, dang, I don't know if I'm there yet. This is a lifetime work. It's
Absolutely.
a slow unraveling, a ongoing process. And you can claim it now and still say you're evolving in it too, right?
Absolutely. Amen.
So I love that. I love that. Listening to your bio, you have done a breadth of work, right? Marketing and branding, and now doing this coaching work and author. Give us kind of a through line, right, of your journey, if you could. I'm always intrigued to see how people arrived here
Yeah,
today.
absolutely. Yeah, it's been about close to 15 years that I've been really committed to doing this work. I did
Mhm.
not, again, wake up one day and say, I'm going to be a coach and I'm going to, step into this world. I didn't even know what coaching was and that was a profession. But I started off my career like many of us. There was sort of a pathway that you follow in terms of getting your education, becoming degreed, getting that secure, sustainable job, get the paycheck, the benefits, and all of that. And so I grew up in a Caribbean American household, so I think a lot of us can relate to that, especially as children of immigrants. That hard work ethic and really needing to be aware of things in society that might not might will hold you back and try to hold you back. My parents wanted the best for me. They didn't want me to encounter obstacles or struggles in the ways that they did, and for their generation. So I started off really with a hard work ethic and a success driven ethic. And so the only challenge with that, it's not a bad thing to have. And I talk about this in the book. These are worthy goals to have to, check off those milestones, but it's not the only goal. It's not the only pathway. It's not
Yes.
a one size fits all sort of a prescription for success and happiness and fulfillment. So, going down that path, I did, have a full time, corporate job. I studied business administration in undergrad and went on to pursue my MBA as well. So I was very much interested in business. I studied business development, business strategy, international e-commerce. I ate it up. I thought it was really
Yeah.
fascinating. And so going into that workforce, especially upon graduation, was a really, rude awakening, probably in the first, couple years of my career of, what it means to be, a Black woman and oftentimes one of the only Black women in the office. And this is not, uncommon. A lot of us talk about, this experience and just, the struggle of, being the only. And so, that was very much, real for me.
Yeah.
But beyond that, the our work culture of the 9 to 5, the being at the desk, to be sort of micromanaged or, trying to climb the corporate ladder, right,
Yeah.
did not, again, align with my version of success. It didn't always have the language to, connect the dots to that. I just thought, I just need to explore a different job, a different, company, and eventually I'll figure it out. And so knocking on different doors and, exploring different opportunities, it was always sort of the same thing. So what I mean by that, a lot of times when I speak with my clients, we talk about what's called the career pattern, where you change jobs, but it's the same BS, just different
Yeah.
job, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So understanding where that pattern comes from and how we can interrupt it, right? So that sort of began this unfolding for me, where I needed to really challenge myself in terms of how did I define success? And that has been an
Yeah.
answer or a question that I have been answering for myself, throughout the years, because it changes, right? Really getting to know who you are, what you value, right? Aligning your
Yeah.
mission with that, aligning your sense of purpose with that. And so undergoing that path and really pushing back on what they say is the expectation, or what is that version of success. It wasn't always easy, and at the time, like I said, I've been doing this for 15 years or more. Not a lot of people were having this conversation.
Mm.
They certainly weren't, challenging, at least in the circles that I was in. These were not conversations. You just had a job and you're grateful for the paycheck. And
Yeah.
that wasn't good enough for me. So
Yeah.
it started me down this path of self discovery, and again, understanding and becoming more aware with who I am and how I wanted to show up in the world. I talk about this in my book, and we'll get to that soon too. But asking yourself this question around, what do you want to be able to say about the life that you've lived and the work that you've done?
Mhm.
Became sort of
Yeah.
a northern star guiding light for me within my career, to help me to make choices that would answer that question for me, that would better align me with, the person that I wanted to be, the person that I was becoming. So that became sort of my guide, to navigating my career, starting this company as a coach. I talk about the ways in which I got laid off from my corporate job at the time, and I thought it's now or never. I really got to start thinking
Yeah.
about me because the corporations they don't care. They don't care, and we've
Yeah.
seen that with layoffs happening over the years, especially within the tech industry. So really learning to reprioritize and recenter our needs, our dreams, and putting ourselves first. I think that's something that one of those unlearnings that we need to have, especially as millennial women. A lot of our parents are of a different generation and oftentimes stayed in
Yeah.
jobs for 15, 20 years, right? So that's really the case that you see these days. But sometimes you have to undo that narrative of I have to stick it through. And if I just do XYZ, then they'll recognize me and they'll reward me for my
Yeah.
values. So it's again that unlearning that kind of guides you into the steps and the pathway that you want to build for yourself on your own terms. Yeah.
And centering that. So in your work now as a career equity coach, that's the work you're walking people through who are having a similar awareness or a similar enlightening about their career
Correct.
experience.
Yeah. Correct.
Yeah,
Correct. It's
love that.
really our unique experiences as Black women in the workplace. It's really about understanding that the system that we live in, this work culture that we live in, was not designed for us, right? So I
Yeah.
think the sooner we become aware of that, is the sooner that we can start unlearning, these beliefs and rules that we've lived by that are not our even our own rules to follow.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And that brings us to this book. This book, congratulations, by the way.
Thank you.
Huge accomplishment. Your website describes the book, and we use the inspiration of the book for the title of this episode. So, Dreaming on Purpose is also the name of the book. And your website describes it as a care-centered. I love that. A care-centered career roadmap for Black millennial women who dare to look beyond outdated career norms, redefine professional ambition, and center their desire. I love that languaging. Talk a little bit about the book. Like, what was your inspiration, and what do you hope that people will take away after reading it?
Yeah. So I always knew that I wanted to write a book. Ever since I was a little kid, have been scribbling and writing on journals and, sketch pads. I've always been, kind of in love with the written language, and journaling has been kind of my teacher, in evolving my language. So I knew that writing a book was something that I wanted to accomplish in my career. It just happened a little bit sooner than I was ready for. The kind of short version of that is that I had been approached by a publisher, Indigo River Publishers, and they had saw my breadth of work and offered me the opportunity to work together and collaborate on a book project. To which I said, of course, yes. Even though I was shaking and very scared, and like I said, was not ready to do it. But the universe sometimes gives you a nudge in the direction that you need to go in, and oftentimes we ignore those nudges until they become, they shove you into the direction that you need to be going in anyway. But that was a small nudge that I had said yes to, and it just so happened the timing of it. It was right before the pandemic that I had started
Mm,
this book, and so Dreaming on Purpose has gone through many iterations. It has started out, very different than what it ended up being. But as 2020 shifted the landscape for us, for all of us
everyone.
globally, right?
Yeah.
Never in our lifetimes have we experienced what we experienced. So I knew that I wanted to speak to certain issues that had been, coming to the surface, and having sort of a global conversation around, the great resignation, health inequities that were happening, racism, that has long existed. So I wanted to write a book that reflected where we are now as a
Mm,
community, as a society, and to really open up and having those hard conversations. So most of the pandemic, I had been writing this book, and so really recognizing that, I wanted to tell my story. I wanted to be in fully my truth and be as transparent about the journey as I could be. So, that was my promise to myself in creating this book, and I knew that I wanted the reader to really see the realities of what it means to take the leap in your career and in your life, and again to push back on narratives that were not serving us, right? So
Yeah.
so really recognizing that we do have options, we do have choice, in terms of how we live out our lives. And the care piece really was so transformational for me in terms of unhooking from praise and validation, chasing
Mm,
titles and worth and status, and oftentimes to our own detriment. So what does care look like in your career? Whatever that means for you, however you define that, right? And suppose that was your roadmap, right? Suppose that was
yeah.
your career sort of checklist, if you will, that you were following a sort of version of your own success that felt more authentic and meaningful to you. So, really centering and really being in touch and in tune with yourself and with your dreams, and that is what care looks like within your career.
I love that. I'm getting a little buzz on me because part of it is about too, like elevating that desire or the
Yes,
desire for the care or what the vision for the care, like elevating that as paramount, as important, where that can feel frivolous for a lot of people, or that could feel even decadent for a lot of people, that this can be central. This can be the core of the individual development plan, or whatever it
absolutely,
is that they're working on. I love that idea, and that it really amplifies that as important, as critical, even in your own development, which is a paradigm shift, right?
absolutely,
Especially, I think, for Black women,
absolutely.
quite a paradigm shift. So it requires, and I'm sure I haven't read the book yet because the book hasn't come out, y'all. When we're recording this, it'll be out by the time you hear this. But it requires a amount of what we refer to in Black Woman Leading heart work, right? To really do that unlearning, to really grapple with guilt we feel around centering ourselves, or replacing narratives of what that means when we put our desires first over whoever, over whatever.
Absolutely.
I love it. I love it. It's critical work, and people need support with that. People need support with that. So so happy that you're
Yeah.
offering that support through the book.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it
I love
speaks
it.
to, the community piece. It is care and
Yeah.
it is community. And understanding that we have to rely on each other, and really break through that, stereotype of doing it all on your own, and not needing, the help, or not knowing how to ask for help.
Yeah.
That's another sort of central theme that comes through in my conversations with clients and that I write in the book, is that learning to ask for help and allowing yourself to be vulnerable. It's okay. It's okay to
Yeah.
do that. It's zero
It's
reflection
strength.
on your
Yeah. It's
capabilities.
strength.
But again, it's the society that we live in, right? That it actually forces you to act alone, or to do things on your own, to shoulder things, because there's value in the struggle, that you have to, be all the things to everyone, and there's value in that, and
Yeah.
less value in asking for help. So I want us to really, really get that, and want to, again, like, circle back as many times as possible, because it's not you. I think
Yeah.
that's one of the biggest things that I had to learn as well, and especially within the coaching industry and the personal development industry. If you're not careful, you can internalize that I'm flawed, or I'm in need of
Yeah.
fixing mentality, that sometimes well-meaning, books and authors and speakers out there, again, well-intentioned, but understanding that we are not in need of fixing, and
Yeah.
so without that awareness, I think we slip into this. I have to keep taking the next course, or
Yeah.
if I read this one book, or if I certify in XYZ, then I will be valuable, or then they'll
Yeah.
recognize me. And I really want to challenge ourselves to really push back on that, because you
Yeah.
don't have to do it by yourself. You don't have to check
Yeah.
another box just to build your own validation. That's not where your worth comes from.
Yeah, and I love the doubling down on that, right? Because a lot of that is ingrained,
Right.
to be quite honest, from white supremacy culture, right? Of this
Yeah.
perfectionism that the
Yeah.
object is the goal, achievement of the object is the goal, and not your own humanity, not your own
Absolutely.
um, contributions of just the spiritual being that you are, that is contributing to the world in all these different ways.
Absolutely.
We we
And
did an episode earlier in the earlier season around separating identity from achievement,
mm,
and you're talking about
mhm,
how that is so embedded in
yes.
career development and in leadership development, that if I haven't hit this thing yet, then I am not worthy,
Right.
and being able to separate that. So I love that you call that out.
Absolutely, absolutely, and no, and for you, the call out around white supremacy and capitalism are like this. They're cousins,
Yep.
right?
Oh yeah,
So
cousins.
absolutely, recognizing that we are existing in a capitalist white supremacist
Yep.
society. And so, yeah, that sort of doubling down of just like individuality and identity,
Yep.
that's something that we have to work to undo every single day. Yeah.
Yep, yep, absolutely. What One of the things that really resonated with me when we spoke initially was your framing of dreaming as a form of resistance and reclaiming ourselves. Can you share a little bit more about your perspective on that?
Yeah, this is really, really powerful for me. When I think about my ancestors, when I think about the generations of women that came before me, from my mother to my great grandmother to my grandmother to, and beyond, going back generations and generations, weren't always allowed the space and the freedom to dream. Dreaming, what is that? I
Yeah.
need to survive. I need to take care of my community. I need to, right?
Yes.
So we were not afforded the space to know that dreaming is for us too. It kind of
Yes. Yeah.
reminds me of the stigma behind mental health and therapy in particular. Oftentimes in the Black communities, there is this like therapy is that's for white people. We don't do that. We don't do that, and thankfully I see that we're turning that around, and we're turning the corner around, pushing back around the stigma associated with that. But dreaming, it's the same thing when it comes to again, centering our dreams and knowing that that is for us. Our dreams are valid. We
Yes.
get to dream too. We get to have the time and the space to imagine, and to really reclaim. Dreaming is it's more than a fantasy. I think when we think about dreaming, it's about, oh, it's for children, or even in and of itself, to give yourself that space to dream is that resistance, right? Is that pushing
Yes.
back, right? So I think about this path to resistance, through dreaming, as reclaiming our right to reimagine a better future for us. We get to do that. We get to
Yeah.
again push back, past these limitations that were placed upon us. We don't have to just settle, for that. So
Yeah.
to me, that represents this opportunity and this pathway towards freedom, right? To really allow
Yeah.
ourselves to actively reject those narratives.
I love that. That's beautiful. We've been kind of talking about community. Our season 6 theme is community care is critical.
Yeah.
And in our Black woman leading community, we talk a lot about being mirrors for each other. And that a lot of times the isolation we feel in these workplaces, being the only, and all of that, is because there are no mirrors. There is not a space to check and say, well, is it me? Am I tripping? Or is something else really going on here? Or to be honest and say, I'm struggling with this thing, and for it to be safe for you to do your work, your development work, without having to kind of look over your shoulder every minute. So we talk about being mirrors and how we need these mirrors to bring our full selves to whatever spaces we occupy. And so, as we think about this season's theme of community care is critical, I love to ask you, who are some of your mirrors and how have they supported your career growth and development along your journey?
Wow, I love this question so much because it really allows us to acknowledge and pay homage to, the women that we have around us and surrounding us,
Yeah.
and it's really, for me, my mirrors, I think about, again, it's those who came before me, and
Yeah.
understanding who they were as women, what traits and qualities do I have in common, with the
Yeah.
ancestors that have come before me. Um, so I'll give you an example. My mother's side of the family is Jamaican, and my great grandmother was, one of the first entrepreneurs in my family line, that I had been excited to learn about, and that she, you know, had a business, in Jamaica. She sold coffee, she sold cocoa beans to the local
Okay.
businesses, and she, was the only supplier, for a very long time, and so the
Wow.
smarts and the wit and the fortitude and the resilience, that my great grandmother had to carve out that space for her. It's like, oh, okay, I definitely have that in me. So it's good to know that
Yeah.
I'm being guided by that wisdom and by that spirit, right? And so I think about, generations back, but I also think about the women that I have right in front of me and have always been around me. So, my mother, my grandmother, my family, right,
Yeah.
have been reflections. My dad, just really, embodying the lessons that, they have taught me, right, and being that mirror to show me who I am and who I can be, right, and the
Yeah.
good, the bad, and the ugly, and we really just, we
Yeah.
learn from each
Yeah.
other, and it's
The mirror will show you what you need to change too.
exactly. You have to be willing to look at it for sure, right? But mentorship, I talk about
Yeah.
mentorship in the book as well, and just how crucial those relationships are, to really be able to lift each other up is so so important. To open doors, to share our resources. This is something, my one of my mentors has been so incredible around, and sharing her resources with me so that I can land some of the major opportunities in my career. I
Yeah.
can't, I could not have done it, without that. So really just understanding those mirrors in our lives serve the purpose, and it is a two-way street, that we can give to each other and pour into each
Yes.
other and receive as well,
Yeah.
so that we can become better versions of ourselves.
I love that. And you just lit up when you were talking about your mirrors. You just lit up. I love it. Let's talk a little bit about boundaries, though, because I know this is some of the
Yeah.
things you address in the book and also in your work, of course, as a coach. When we spoke initially, you referenced kind of protecting our peace as it relates to our experience in the workplace. So, how can we apply this in a workplace context? What does that mean, protecting our peace, and how does that show up in our kind of as we're navigating the workplace?
Yes, yes. This is something that I feel really passionate about, is in, understanding what our boundaries are, and honoring those boundaries, not being
Yeah.
afraid to communicate what they are. And, first is really becoming aware, of what we need to be our most successful. So knowing when to take a step back, knowing when to say no, when to advocate for ourselves, and
Yeah.
for each other, and just knowing what we need, right? So I think when it comes to certain work environments, right, they are oftentimes ripe with, opportunities for us to really step into and practice, asserting our boundaries and really communicating
Yeah.
what we need, right? So I think one step is to understand, what are the things that are really disrupting your peace at work, right? There's some things that we can't control, just knowing
Yeah.
that, but what are the things that you can control? So for example, taking a step back from a project if you don't have the resources, to put towards that project? How can you start to delegate more? How can you start to,
Mm,
take some things off of your plate so that you, again, don't have to be the only one responsible for it? So how can you bring in people that can support you, right? So not having to
yeah.
do it all on your own. Is it taking a break, taking rests, throughout the day? What does that look like for you? It can literally mean taking a 30-minute nap during
Yeah.
your lunch break. It could mean taking a walk, around the park because you've been in front of your screen for too long. It can be, really, even for yourself, saying yes to your dreams, saying yes to the things that you've been kind of putting off, right? So when you say yes to something, that means you have to say no to something else. So you really have to examine and take inventory of what are the things that are interrupting that peace, and go to great lengths to protect it, because no one is going to do it for you.
Yeah.
No one is going to do it for you. You have, people who can step in, and allies that can, really support you. But if you're not communicating what it is that you need, and again, protecting that, it's going to be hard for other people to respect and honor that. So I see it as a two-pronged approach, like really becoming aware of what your boundaries are,
Yeah.
knowing yourself, right? And then asserting that, right? I.e., honoring
Yeah.
those boundaries. And so oftentimes my clients has challenges with the second one of asserting those boundaries, and understandably so, right? Especially when it
Yeah.
comes to, engaging with other people, and the risk of backlash. And especially, again, as Black women, we really have to be mindful and take it in case by case basis in terms of that. But again, this is a practice in self advocacy, right? Really,
Yeah.
again, knowing what peace looks like and means to you, and taking those incremental steps towards that.
I love that. And that just to reiterate, I love the clarity on those two steps, that self-awareness, really getting clear on what I want, what do I need in this space to really give my full contribution. And then two, now how do I communicate that? And you might have to communicate it a few times.
Absolutely, yes.
I always say to our clients, our Black women lead in broken record technique, but I said it, say it
Yeah,
again.
as many times
Say
as
it again.
necessary. Yes.
Yes, as many times as you need to. I love it. I love it. I want to transition in a minute to asking a couple of our core questions for the season's theme, but I'll just maybe we'll kind of wrap this portion on dreaming on purpose. Let's say this is really resonating with someone who's listening. It's waking up some stuff inside of them, and they're getting inspired to kind of craft that vision for themselves or to assert those boundaries. What would you say is a first step that they can take to move forward in that direction?
It starts with acknowledging and validating your dreams,
Yeah.
right? Yourself, and to yourself first, knowing that your dreams are valid. You deserve to pursue them. They deserve to be in the world. This is your path. You're not crazy. Listen, pay
Yeah.
attention to them, right? Um, and then it's taking action towards them, and it doesn't have to be big actions like I'm gonna quit my job and just start this new thing. It doesn't have to be that. I think oftentimes
Yeah.
we hear stories of those quick successes, or I just quit my job, and no one path is the same. So you really have to honor what your path is, but you do have to dedicate time towards it, even if it's
Yeah.
once a week, even if it's for 10 minutes a day. Write it down. What is one thing that you can do every single day to forward you closer and closer to your dreams? And I talk about this in my book as well, is sharing your dreams with others. It doesn't have to be on social media if that's not your jam, and you're more of a private person, and that's fine too. But think about someone who you trust in your life,
Yeah.
that you can be vulnerable with and share something that you've always thought about doing. It doesn't have to be, a business. It doesn't have to be starting a new job. It can be, but there's so many things that we can imagine and envision to rebuild a better future for ourselves. right?
Yeah.
So really getting clear on what that is and sharing it with someone who will support you and cheerlead you on. That's especially crucial, especially in the early stages when it's the dream is still taking shape and you're just kind of wrapping your
Yeah.
mind around it. So would absolutely validate that those dreams are real. And you need to take action on them every single day and just carve space for them, just like you would a doctor's appointment, just like you would
Yeah.
honoring an appointment to someone else, right? You first have to honor that commitment to you.
I love that. I love it. I love it. So let's shift take a few minutes on our core questions because we'd like to think of all our guests as role models, right? So what are we trying to put forth with this community care is critical, and that part of community care is being able to refill your own cup sometimes so that you can then pour out for other people. So I love to ask, how are you refilling your cup these days? How are you taking care of yourself? What does self care look like for you?
Mm. Wow. I am a big proponent of bath times.
Ooh,
I do love to draw a beautiful bath every 2 weeks or so. Doesn't have to be every night, but I when I do it, I go all out and with the candles and a good book
I
or
love
a
it.
good playlist. I'm going to spend as much hours in the bathroom as I need. I'm a big proponent of going for walks, especially in the morning time. Um, Really honoring and protecting that time in the morning. That's when I feel my most creative. That's when I feel my most clear. So taking
Mm,
time to just sit quietly, tune the world out, and just be with myself and my thoughts and my dreams
yeah,
really feels like again the care that I can give to myself and just really giving or just honoring my
yeah,
innermost thoughts and my innermost dreams and really giving them room to come to the surface and acknowledging them.
yeah.
I can
I
probably
love
go
it.
on and on, but those are my most
Yeah.
favorite self-care activities.
It's like a incubation time, right?
Exactly.
for
Exactly.
for those that creativity to kind of percolate.
Yeah.
I love it. You talked about it a little bit earlier, asking for help and really giving ourselves permission to do that. We want to normalize that, asking for help in our community. Can you share a time when you asked for help and it made the difference for you?
So one of the times where I was able to ask for help was during a time where I wanted to challenge myself to become a public speaker. And so I gave myself the challenge of signing up for an open mic poetry
Wow.
event. And I wrote a poem and I chose to ask for a good friend of mine who was used to, you know, um, being on these open mics, was an amazing speaker. And I asked for her help in coaching me and supporting me and helping me through
I
it.
love it.
Um, it was very hard for me because I hadn't asked, for something like that and to share my poetry in a very like vulnerable way. I just
Yeah.
wanted to just not involve anybody and just do it in case I bomb. But I knew that that would just be me going into kind of a cycle again. So
Yeah.
I extended myself and I asked a good friend of mine and I told her what I was doing and that I was writing poetry and I wanted to do this open mic. And of course she said yes. Of course she was more than happy to do it. And I this was in New York City a few years back. And I was able to do it. I was able to get on stage and recite a poem that I had written. Just felt
Wow.
very vulnerable in doing that, but it was the most powerful I felt in a
Wow.
long time. So it really helped me to break out of my own bubble when it comes to just trying to figure things out on my own and know that there are people that are just so eager and so ready to help you if only you just ask. So, yeah.
Yeah, I love that. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. All right, last one. So we talked about how you received care. What's your care superpower? What do you offer to your community that creates a soft space for them to land?
Yeah. I love to create intentional spaces, non judgmental
Mm,
spaces where others feel seen, where they feel heard, where they feel understood. Um, this has allowed for some very, very powerful conversations. I think oftentimes when we wear masks or we think that we're supposed to show up in a certain way, it separates us from who we our authenticity, right? So I really strive to create environments where people feel like they can just be themselves. They can just show up and know that they're not going to be judged. That know that they are in a safe space to
yeah,
really again just open up and just share who they are. And so I feel that I have um, that natural ability to create that and doing it intentionally anywhere I go. I want to make sure that I'm doing what I can to create safe spaces that are non-judgmental.
I love it. Thank you so much for sharing with us. This has been wonderful talking to you. I just want to affirm you that you have such a beautiful spirit. You could tell this is real to you.
Mhm.
It even shines through the computer. And I just pray that all of your wildest dreams come true for you because you're doing some really great work in the world. So thank you for being here. If people want to connect with you, where can they find you and what exciting things do you have going on right now that they should know about?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm on all the socials. You can find me on Instagram at Ariane Hunter. Same thing on LinkedIn. I encourage anyone here listening, feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. Shoot me a note. Let me know that you heard this conversation. I always love hearing from folks, so they can find me there. And of course, my website, arianehunter.com, is a place where you can get to know a little bit about me and my team and the work that we do. I'm excited about a weekly newsletter that we send out called the Dreaming and Doing Digest. I call it sort of your career soul purpose in a Sunday edition where you can just sit down over coffee
I
or
love it.
tea, your favorite beverage, and just read the latest insights and stories on Black women in the workplace. So definitely invite folks to sign up there. And really excited about Dreaming on Purpose, which is out next Tuesday.
Get the
We
book.
talked
Get
about that
the
today, and this is definitely a labor of love, and I hope you all enjoy it just as much as I loved writing it. But yes, it will be out anywhere you find books on August 20th.
Yes. Wonderful. So when you all are hearing this, the book is out. Get the book. All of Arian's links will be in the show notes as well and on the website on her episode page. So you can click it and get it. And then once you get it, go give her an Amazon review. Tell 5 more people about it. I mean, all the
Yes.
things. We need this to be a bestseller. Okay. Thanks again. This has been wonderful. If you all found this information useful today, again, please share with a friend. Go follow Ariane on all platforms and support the work that she's doing in the world. You can listen to us on all major podcast platforms. So make sure you leave a comment, you rate, you like all the things to amplify this type of work and these type of people that we want to help to amplify their platforms as well. You can connect with us, Black Woman Leading, at Black Woman Leading on all platforms, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn. You can also visit our website at blackwomanleading.com to learn about our leadership development programs and events. If you want to connect with me personally, I'm Laura E. Knights on all platforms as well. And then finally, if you want to learn more about the work we do in organizations to create more conscious, competent, and confident leaders, you can check out our corporate site, knightsconsultinggroup.com. We love to connect with you all in any of these ways. And until next time, be well.